Yo, this is Terrance Gaines, aka Brother Tech,
And this is Nica Montford, aka Tech Savvy Diva.
and welcome back to the Snob OS Show, the show for Apple snobs, where we talk all things Apple and then some. I just want to make sure, if I haven't talked to you since last year, just want to make sure I say happy holiday, especially happy new year. Hope you are enjoying, for what it's worth, you're enjoying your new year. Got a lot of
Your
stuff
new
going
year.
on, but I hope you can look beyond some of the
Find
craziness is
some
going
joy in the
on.
new
There
year,
you go. Well,
wherever
there
you
you
can
go.
get it.
That is the goal for 2025, to look beyond the madness, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, we're back for another episode. This is episode 297. We're knocking on that 300
Inching up towards
show
it.
number. Yep. So this is 297 of the show notes. And since it's the beginning of the year, we're going to continue our tradition of going over our predictions from last year. This is for those who are new. Every year we kind of get together, not kind of, we get together and kind of go through and kind of announce all of the Apple or just tech in general things that we think will come to fruition or not.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the beginning of the year, we kind of go over, see what we got right, what we got wrong, and we do new predictions for this coming year. So that's what we're going to spend the bulk of this show on, is going over our 2024 predictions and announcing some new predictions for 2025. So what we're going to do is we're going to alternate, and we'll kind
Okay.
of go over the predictions that we made last year, this time last year, see if they panned out or not. And then we'll also alternate and do our new predictions for 2025. So I'll go first. The
Okay.
first prediction that I had for 2024 was that Apple was going to add USB-C. This wasn't really a stretch, but I said it anyway. The Apple Magic Mouse and the trackpad were finally going to get USB-C. And later on in November, their November Apple event,
Mm-hmm.
they announced a bunch of things in addition to adding USB-C to the Magic Mouse and the trackpad. Now, they didn't put it where I wanted to put it. I was going to assume that they were going, I've got one of the old ones here. I would assume that they were going to put it right here. Maybe make it a little bit bigger in the front,
Mm-hmm.
make it more squared off in the front so they can put the little plug here. Nope. This is I don't know if you can see this.
I call it
This
the
is
roach.
the lightning plug. This is an old lightning Magic Mouse. All they did with the Magic Mouses was take this lightning port out and put a USB-C port in the bottom, which makes it inoperational when you have to charge it.
I told you,
Unlike,
I call the dead roach because
yeah,
when you flip it over, it has
yep,
this
that's
thing
what it
sticking
is.
out. It's like a dead roach.
Yep. All the other mice that I have a really good. This is my podcast mouse. For regular stuff like editing video, just on my computer, I have a nice Logitech mouse that has the USB-C in the front. So all that to say, I was right, but I didn't want to be right because I wanted them to add the USB-C for the mouse, specifically for the keyboard and the trackpad. You can use those while it's charging, but the mouse, they put it at the bottom. I guess because very rarely do I charge it, and when I charge it, I plug it up and then leave the room
Mm-hmm.
because I only come down here to shoot once or twice a week. So I don't need it that often. So I know in my mind, once I leave doing the last podcast of the week, plug in my podcast, let it sit over on his back, on his belly, the belly showing. By the time I come back on Monday, fully charged. I unplug it, I use it. That's not the case for everybody. There's some people who this is their main driver and they use it all every day, all day, and they don't have time for it to be dying and then have to totally stop what they're doing. Or if they've got a MacBook, to use the MacBook trackpad while this thing charges. Apple could have went a long way by putting it on the front. Just put it on the
Some
front, man.
goodwill.
Right. Just put it on the front. I mean, I get it. They're aesthetics and they have a specific design look, and they're not going to sacrifice that for functionality. But I mean, we need functionality, so do it. So I was right, but not the way I wanted to be right on that first one.
So for my first one, for I have to say, start off my 2024 predictions. They shot for the stars, and and by the time we're at the end of this, we'll see what my moonshot was.
Hmm.
And I'll say it's not great. But my first one was Apple release a new type of iPad. I gave an example of maybe something like an iPad Fold. I was 100% wrong. The only thing we got as far as iPad newness was basically a new chip, which was the M4 chip. I did
Hmm.
purchase a MacBook Pro M4 chip iPad because I had been wanting a new iPad Pro and I was hoping for something more grand. Um, but I was let down. So wrong for
Yeah.
my first prediction.
Yeah, Apple, I think Apple is done with the full redesign of any of their products. Because
Yep.
even like with the mouse thing, they could have redesigned this whole thing just to get the USB C on the front. They ain't do it. So if that ain't no indication of you gonna get what you get as it
Yeah.
relates to Apple, they've pretty much decided
What you get.
this is what an iPhone looks like. This is what an
This is what a
iPad looks
mouse
like.
looks like. This is
This
what
is
it
what a
is.
mouse. This is what a MacBook looks like. This is what it is. So
And that leads into one of my predictions for 2025 as well. We'll get to that. But yeah.
all right,
So
all
yeah,
right.
my first prediction couldn't been more wrong.
All right. My second one was Apple is going to announce some sort of AI. I called it Siri AI. Again, that wasn't a huge stretch because they were talking about Apple Intelligence. You can see the writing on the wall. Everything was going
Yeah.
to go with Apple Intelligence. So it was only a matter of time when Apple kind of jumped in. They kind of hold off, and they did. So my prediction of Apple announcing some sort of Siri AI was right because they did announce Apple Intelligence to roll out with the iPhone 16s and the 15 Pros.
Yep. My next prediction, as I look at these predictions, I now realize that these were things that this was more of a wish list
Hmm.
more than
Hmm.
a prediction list.
Hmm.
And hey, I'll take that. My second one was Apple will release redesign AirPod Max. Wrong yet again. The only redesign, and I'm saying that
Hmm.
for folks who aren't watching in quotes, was basically they were like, look, you're going to get the same AirPod Max. The only thing we are going to change is we're going to give you a USB-C port because basically Apple has transitioned all the products into USB-C. So,
Which again, that was the writing on the wall.
yeah,
But you just assumed that since Apple hadn't touched the AirPods
no
Max in
refresh. Yeah.
right, you just assumed that they were cooking something else up. Nope.
Yeah.
Only thing
Nada.
they did, I think they added some new colors and they added the USB C port.
Yeah, they added like a green and like a peachy pink
Yeah,
color, and that's it.
yeah. Yep, yep.
Yeah.
So all right.
Mm.
My next one was no iPhone redesign. I kind of figured this is what it is with the iPhone.
Mhm.
So technically I was right. The only thing that Apple added was I think a different color, and they
Mhm.
added the camera control button, which in my opinion is more of a feature.
Yeah,
They really
that's
didn't
not
have to
redesign.
redesign the whole iPhone. They just added another button.
Yep,
So
they had space.
yep, yep, yep. So that was it. Outside of the added control button, you cannot tell just by glance, especially if it's in a case. You
Yeah.
cannot tell between a 16, a 15, a 14, maybe even a 13 and a 12 because they all have that look. I think the dynamic island, if you're looking close enough, would be probably the only distinctive factor of all of
Mhm.
those iPhones. So this
Yep,
is it.
yep.
Apple ain't changing nothing. This is it.
And, my next one was the iPhone will take a backseat to other tech. And while there was some, um focus shift, the iPhone is the marquee
Mhm.
product of Apple, and it remains as such.
Mhm.
Um, I think when I made this prediction, I was expecting the Vision Pro to take a more prominent
Mhm. Mhm.
um, place in the pantheon of Apple because of all of the talk before it was released. I mean, we talked about this thing, we dissected
To
it,
death.
a
Mhm.
couple of years even before it made any sort of appearance. And based on the way the rollout was, the way the chatter was, it's like this is the future of Apple. And no, phones is the
They're
future of
the
Apple.
the AirPod category is picking up steam. It's almost with the Apple Watch, but maybe even more so. If you see somebody with an iPhone, I'm 90% positive that they also have a pair of AirPods, similar to how, you know, most people, if they have an iPhone, well, I mean, you got to have an iPhone in order to use the watch, but you don't
Mhm.
have to have an iPhone to use the AirPods. You can use them as regular Bluetooth
Bluetooth
headphones.
devices. Yeah.
I use them to connect to, again, my daughters. For those who missed the pre show, if you are not a Patreon subscriber, you missed this
Sign up.
conversation. Yep. But I use my AirPods as Bluetooth earbuds when I'm connecting to my daughter's VR. I just connect it and it just works. So all around the world to say, you don't need AirPods if you're an Apple fan, but most Apple fans have
Have AirPods.
AirPods.
Yep.
But still, that ain't. It's still that daggone iPhone.
Yep.
and a-
That's the
and
big
Apple
kahuna, as they say.
and Apple better watch out, because I mean, the Roman Empire, it only lasts for so long, and then Apple's gonna be just like BlackBerry, like scrambling, like what is the thing that's going
Yep.
to continue us making money? So they better figure it out, because I don't know if the iPhone's going to be it forever, right?
Yep.
All right. So the last one I had, or no, I think it's your turn. Is your turn or is it my
Nope.
turn?
It's your turn.
Okay. So last one I had was, again, no Apple Watch redesign. And technically, I mean, this is maybe 70%, but I counted it a W because the only thing they did with the Apple Watch 10, a lot of
Mhm.
people thought this was going to be the anniversary one. That's why I kind of said,
Because it's a
nope.
nice round number.
And they did it with the iPhone. The iPhone 10 was their like 10th anniversary thing. So everybody
Mhm.
just assumed they were going to do the same thing with the watch. It was going to look different, yada, yada, yada. Nope. The only thing they did was they made it thinner. So it's a
Mhm.
couple millimeters thinner, and the screen is a couple millimeters bigger. So you get a little bit bigger screen, you get a little bit thinner bezel. But that, again, you cannot tell an Apple Watch 10 from a 9876543 because they
Yep.
all look the same. So that was my thing with the no Apple Watch redesign, because like I said, Apple is done with the introducing new versions of their same old products. This is what it is, baby.
Yeah. And I didn't want to believe it because my prediction was Apple will redesign the Apple Watch. And no, it did
Yep.
not. And again,
Nope.
I think this was more of a wish list than a prediction
Right.
list because I ultimately did get a Apple Watch 10 because I realized that this is it, babe. It's
Hmm.
it's this is as almost probably as good as it gets.
Right.
We'll definitely get some software updates, maybe some new sensors, but as far as the look and feel, this is it. And I have to say, interestingly enough, I saw someone post on Twitter, Patek Philippe, and if you know, that is one of the top
Oh
tier,
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
upper
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
echelon
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
watchmakers,
Hmm.
and they put a side by side of the Apple Watch 10 and Patek Philippe watch from, I think it was 1968. They look almost identical,
Get out of here.
and and
I bet they're not
I
worth. I bet they're not worth the same.
no, they're not. I'll definitely have to post the image, but the gold, I have the Milanese loop on mine, and it was basically a watch with this type of Milanese band.
Mm-hmm.
and it was gold. It had the same shape. It was a little bit smaller
Mm-hmm.
on the face size, but it looked very much similar.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, okay, that makes me feel a little bit better.
Yeah, right.
But
Because maybe there's a method to Apple's madness, right? Because you bring up watches.
mhm,
Watches don't change all that much. Maybe they go from square to round to curve to chamfered edges, but
mhm,
the technology on the inside, what they do, what their purpose for, a lot of the watch community has accepted the fact that watches look a certain way.
yep,
And maybe this is Apple saying, with the Apple Watch, we've got the design that we want it to look. This is just the way Apple smartwatches look. And we just had to be okay
this is
with
where they
that.
look. This
For
is what they are.
now, the
Get
problem with
into
that
it.
is, especially with somebody like me, if I stop buying the new phone and the new watch every year, Apple's got a problem. Because I'm almost like the things that I want to buy in 2024 and the things that I know I want in 2024,
Mhm,
I'm gonna have to choose. And I think buying the iPhone 17 and getting the Apple Watch 11, that may take a back seat to some of the other things that I want this year, because
mhm,
everybody's got a crutch, right? My crutch
right,
is every year I get the new phone, every year I get the new watch.
mhm.
Whatever's going on around that time, finances, whatever, take a back seat to those two purchases. Now, since I've accepted the fact that for the watch and the phone specifically, ain't really nothing new, ain't nothing not new, nothing really fantabulous is going to happen with this new phone and new watch. So it's almost like, am I tripping to not buy these things, re-up next year?
Mhm.
And I may be all right with that. We'll see. Now, again, this is beginning of the year. When September rolls around, I may get an itchy trigger finger. But as of right now, I'm debating on whether or not I'm going to get a new phone and a new watch this go around.
Yeah, because I mean, at this point, it's really all like incremental changes. It's
Mhm.
nothing major. And again, I'll allude to that a little bit more once we get to the 2025 predictions. But I did
Right.
have one more prediction, and it was on device controls from the HomePod.
Mhm.
And
Like a touchscreen display.
right.
Mhm.
On the actual kind of, if you think of the HomePod, that's the
Mhm.
the almost square cylindrical shape, and you have
Mhm.
all this real estate on the top
Mhm.
of the device that
Mhm.
basically you can just kind of like turn the volume up and down. That's a
And
lot
play
of
and
real estate
pause.
that can be
Yeah.
used. Right. And I would assume that they would take advantage of that unused real estate.
Mhm.
That did not happen. So
Mhm.
I am 0 for 5 on my 2024 predictions. That, you know what? The way 2024 went, it's on brand.
Well, and also because again, your predictions were a little bit more aspirational
Yeah.
and more what I want to see Apple do versus
Mhm.
what actually
What
can
are they
Apple
actually
do.
going to do?
Right, which is my predictions was more, what is Apple actually going to do?
Right.
So going forward, I'm going to try to step out on the edge a little bit more. So if you're done with your 2024 predictions, we're going to
Yep.
move into our 2025 predictions. So this is all the things that we think Apple is going to do over the course of a year. It's got to be something that they announce or something that they actually release. So those are the
Mhm.
two stipulations I can think of, right?
Right.
So I'll start with the first one.
Okay.
Again, even though this is more of an wish list aspirational thing, they have been talking about it. They meaning the tech blogs, the tech community, that sort of thing. So this is kind of a rumor. Um, but I believe, what I want to see happen is Apple add a physical TV to the product lineup, not the
Hmm.
set top box that connects to the TV, an actual Apple TV. Think of like
Mhm.
their Vision, um, computer screens. What do they call those? Computer
The
screen?
studio?
No, I mean just like a computer monitor. That's the word I
Oh,
was
okay.
looking for. A monitor.
Okay.
Just similar to Apple's computer monitors that are, of course, expensive because Apple.
Mhm.
And two, they've got the aesthetic. I could see Apple taking a Vision or Studio monitor and just blowing it up to 50, 55 inches and making it a TV. Of course, it's got the Apple TV guts in it, so you don't have to have the Apple TV
The
set top
box.
box,
Mhm.
and it's got, of course, it's got all the connectivity that can connect to your earpods better, that can stream from your Mac or your iPhone or your iPad better, all that stuff wrapped
So
up
kinda like a
in the TV.
Samsung TV, but Apple
Right.
version of that.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And they're going to make it super simple to connect your devices to it. You can use it as a monitor if you want to. They'll probably, again, they'll have the Apple TV set top box built in. You'll probably be able to use your phone as a remote. Now, you can use your phone as a remote for the Apple TV set top box,
Mhm.
but you look for the actual remote. The
He's
Apple,
like,
the
"I'd
remote,
rather spend the time to find the remote than
right?
to use this
The
thing."
phone or my watch. I want Apple to make that interface better to
Mhm.
where you're either using Siri to change the channels or the remote app gets a overhaul that looks or resembles or has more of the functions of a more traditional TV remote with the input
Mhm.
buttons, with the mute button, with the sleep timer. That's one of the things that I miss using an Apple TV set top box is a sleep
Mhm.
timer. In
Mm.
90 minutes, I just want the TV to turn off.
Turn off because 'cause I'm not watching it anymore, it's watching me.
Right. So some of those features I think Apple can cook up in an
Yeah.
Apple TV, an actual television. So that's my prediction.
So my first prediction, it's kind of a play on the last prediction that I had last year in regards to the HomePod and the on-device controls. I think with what Apple is trying to do with HomeKit, with Matter, I think the HomePod is going to be reimagined or reinventioned to be more of what I'm calling like a smart HomePod. So
Hmm.
HomePods are kind of like the central audio version of this type of device. I'm thinking they
Hmm.
may be going towards using this as um a, a manifestation outside of your iPhone or even your iPad's
Hmm.
home app, and having this be a actual display
Hmm.
that is used more for controlling any of your smart home devices. So I
Hmm.
think HomePod may get a little bit of a makeover
And it won't just be
because
audio, it'll be more home,
more
less
home,
pod.
more inclusive, right?
Mhm.
Because I think at this point they've exhausted in the current format of the HomePod and the HomePod Mini the audio aspect of it. I think this kind of leads into your next prediction. I think, shying away and maybe, making a clear delineation of the home aspect of it as
Mhm.
well as the audio aspect, because I know if you are a Snobist Patreon supporter, you heard me talk a little bit about, I got a new Hisense um, a Hisense smart TV during Black Friday, and I bought like the LED lights that go around the back of
Oh,
it
sure. Right,
that
right.
basically take what's on screen
The
and kind of project
audio.
that image
Yeah.
around. And that LED kit is matter based. So basically, when I was setting it up, I just scanned the QR code to add that
To your
lighting
home.
feature
Mhm.
to my home app. So I think it's going to go more that route for HomePod, because I think again they've exhausted the audio um, version of the HomePods and the HomePod minis, and I think it may get a bit of reimagination more into the smart home
Right. And there's a
part of
couple
things.
of yeah, and there's a couple of rumored products that people have been talking about. They've been talking about adding a screen to the HomePod instead of using the screen real estate at the top, like
Mhm.
adding an actual screen to it. So that's
Mhm.
one rumored product. The second rumored product is, think of an iPad with this smart home integration built
Just
into it.
dedicated solely to that.
Right, because I've
Hmm.
considered figuring out a way to permanently, or not permanently, to put a old iPad in a wall mount or build it into the wall, figure out the power situation and use it as a home display that, of
Mm.
course, with the calendar, with reminders, with those apps,
Mhm.
and then you add the home app, you've got like a home control thing to where you can turn on and off lights, you can unlock and unlock doors, you can also check the calendar for the family, you can check
Mhm.
reminders, that sort of thing. So
Yep.
there is a product, there's a rumored product out there about a iPad-ish display that's just a home control. It's not an iPad, so it ain't gonna be, with the M4, this and that and the third, that
Mhm.
you can edit and you
It
can
can
use your
also
Apple
do this.
Pencil.
Yeah.
Yeah, you ain't gonna be able to use Apple Pencil. You ain't gonna be able to use Final Cut Pro. You ain't gonna be able to, do all the things that you would
It's
do.
just for home.
It's just for home. So
Yeah.
we shall see if those things come to fruition. So
Mhm.
like Nika mentioned, that brings up to my next prediction is Apple gets deeper, like you mentioned, into the home aspect of Apple. Instead of just having home pods, they're going to add, in addition to a TV, they're also going to add more home audio devices, i.e., a sound bar and or a subwoofer. So, in my opinion, we talked about it earlier. Apple needs to come up with something else new to get people to spend more money because
Mhm.
we've got all the things now. We've got the Mac, we've got the phone, we've got the watch, we've got the AirPods, we've got the mouse, we got all the
We are
things.
connected. We can't
Right.
get it any more connected.
Unless unless Apple really goes for the Sonos of the world, they go for the Bose, they go for the Sonys of the world and come up with a for real home audio line. Whether they buy Sonos, which is what I want them to do, or they use Beats to create a
Hmm.
line of home audio, whichever way you do it, I don't care. I just want to see more home audio products because people spend money on home audio.
Yep.
They get a little funky Android phone and will spend thousands of dollars on speakers for their home. They'll get a regular looking tablet, but spend $3,000 on a big old TV. So, my opinion, if I was working for Apple, it's like, yo, y'all need to get it, break
Let's
into the
tap
home,
in.
break into the home, make some, forget the personal, everything up until now, with the exception of HomePod, is all personal Apple stuff. I got to
Mhm.
sign in, I got to use it, right? They need to
Mhm.
hit the home audio to where everybody in the family can play with the stuff versus having to sign in and yada. Of course, Apple's going to figure out a way to authenticate it to you, but and they're making
Mhm.
strides with that to with the Apple
Yeah.
TV set top box multiple people can sign in. So if that's an indication, I think Apple should really like tackle the home audio space as a way to get people like me to
Mhm.
spend more money because I got everything already. I got it
Yeah.
all. What else can I buy? You know.
Run out of stuff to buy. And I
Hmm.
and I have to say, like I said, I got the new TV and I got the little LED lights that go around. One of my friends who also listens to the show, she is an audiophile. And during Black Friday, I was looking at sound bars and I was like, this sound stuff costs more than the freaking TV. Are you
Hmm.
insane?
Yep.
Who's paying for this? I was like, this is nuts. But she upgraded her soundbar and she had a Vizio one, you know, she was like, I don't use it anymore because I got this new one. And I was like, well, I don't know anything about this. I was like, I'll buy it from you.
Hmm.
And she was like, okay, so it's the one that has a soundbar, has a subwoofer, and it has
Hmm.
like the two other things that give you like the surround sound.
Hmm.
And I have to say, I watched the first thing that I watched on the new TV with all the setup was Interstellar. And I
Hmm.
have to say, the soundbar, but I think even more outside the soundbar, the subwoofer,
Hmm.
it gives you a different feel. And I'm
Yeah,
like looking
buddy.
around, like,
That rumble and the sounds
yeah,
coming out of
I'm
your
look,
ear from the corners. Yeah.
yeah, I'm looking
Hmm.
around. the world? Like,
Mm,
I'm trying to adjust the volume because I was like, oh my God, I hope this isn't too loud and my neighbors hear it. But I have to say, after seeing some of the prices for this, and of course hers is a Vizio, and I know Vizio TVs are really great. And I went and looked up some of the pricing. I remember some of the pricing from some of the other Vizio soundbars that I was looking for on Black Friday, and I was like, people are paying a grip
mm. They're
for
paying it
their
too.
home audio needs, and I'm like, yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, I can see it. I can
Yep.
see it.
Yep, absolutely. So if they want to get some more money out some folks, because they Apple stock market price, people are kind of like, all right, it can't go no higher than this right now.
Mhm.
It may go down, so
Yeah,
Apple needs to do something to reinvigorate their fan base who, again, we've got everything already. Give
yeah,
me something new to
yeah.
buy, not just add one or two things to the thing I already got and
Add some
pray I go
features.
out and get it again. Because I mean,
My second thing is related to AirTags. I think we're going to get not only new AirTags but a new interface,
when you
or
say
at least
new, you mean part two or like a different type of AirTag?
so I think we may get an upgrade in the hardware for AirTags, and I say that because it wasn't a proof of concept, but the the use and the value add that AirTags have brought to people who are Apple users and non-Apple users
Hmm.
has been significant. We talked about it on, I think, the last show before we took the holiday break. Now airlines, big major airlines, I think it was Delta,
Hmm.
United, and Air Canada, are now
Hmm.
coming on board saying, yeah, yep, we're going to use, your right now it's a link that, you can share with them. I think in addition to what air tags have proven is a huge value to not only consumers but to businesses as well, I think we're going to see, I don't know if it's going to be an addition to Find My or if it's going to be a new separate app. I would think that it may be a new separate app to Find My specifically for AirTags, because I think you can have these airlines, build out, the way they interact. But I think
Hmm.
Apple hopefully will say,
Similar to like CarPlay.
yeah, let's
Hmm.
make it something universal that can be
Hmm.
customized for the different customers. But, we basically own that intellectual property. We basically own how it works, because it's not just with airlines anymore. People have the experiment, is successful and has passed. People use air tags on pets. People
Hmm.
use air tags in
On the
cars.
car, yep.
People use air tags
On
in
people.
luxury good items. So, I think we may see an improvement in air tags to, like I said, the experiment worked to, be able to have usage beyond the limited scope that probably it initially came in as,
Hmm.
and having a separate app to be able to manage those. Because I don't know about you, but we have a lot of Apple devices in between us, and if you go into Find My, the list is long and
Hmm.
extensive, and I think it would serve the public and businesses alike if there was a dedicated app solely for
Hmm.
tracking these
Air
air
tag.
tags.
Hmm.
So that's kind of the way I'm seeing that. I think they could go with this, because I think they now see the value, the genuine value add for air tags, for the larger populace.
Yep. Oh, absolutely. Tile. There's a couple other companies that was out there
Hmm.
doing it before, but when Apple jumped on the scene, everybody was like, "Bet this is important."
Yep.
So yeah, it would make sense for Apple to create some sort of new app interface, whether it be a website,
Hmm.
that non-Apple people can use,
Hmm.
or just people, in addition to just using the Find My app, which is like you mentioned, not rudimentary is not the right word, but I mean, it just does what you needed to do. But now there's more features, there's more
Yep.
possibilities that Apple probably needs to flesh out a little bit more.
Yep.
I'm curious as to if Apple's going to keep all that in house, or are they going to let even more companies utilize the
Mm.
AirTag? I mean, the AirTag functionality, similar to AirPlay. Apple
Mhm.
created AirPlay, but most devices nowadays utilize AirPlay, whether it be
Mhm.
Samsung, whether it be Hisense, like you mentioned. If you want to connect two devices together or stream, AirPlay is the way to go. But Apple created that, but other people use it. I could see
Mhm.
AirTags in the same way. Apple created AirTags, but it don't matter if you got a pair of Beats. It don't matter if you got a, a MetaQuest, VR headset that you need to track. Apple via API, or with the
Mhm.
same thing with the home kit, you got to be licensed to use it. However they do it, I could definitely see Apple, letting other brands, other companies utilize that functionality or the technology because, like you mentioned, it was a success.
Yep.
All right, so the next one that I have, the blood oxygen sensor on the Apple Watch comes back in 2025. For those who don't remember, there was this company that claimed Apple stole all of their patents as it relates to the blood oxygen sensor that they announced 2 years ago, I think.
Mhm.
Um, and Apple had to stop the functionality, the technology is there, but they had to essentially turn it off. They had to turn off the blood oxygen sensor until they figure out this whole lawsuit thing. Fast forward to now, the lawsuit is losing steam. I think one of the CEO that are initially championed this lawsuit is either fired or left.
Mm.
So now I think a judge sometime this year may say Apple can continue with adding or using the blood oxygen sensor, and then Apple's going to flip a switch, and then now we have a blood
Turn
oxygen
it back
sensor
on.
that we had prior to this whole lawsuit thing. So that is my prediction. The blood oxygen sensor comes back after a judge says, "All right, enough of this," or Apple pay some money and let's move forward.
Drop some money. They got plenty of it. Yep.
Hmm.
I can never see that because it's really basically just a switch at this point because it was on, then they turned it off. So it's just basically a flip of a switch.
Hmm.
And the deposit, a very large deposit into the bank account of, I think it was Massimo,
I think
was
that's the
the
name.
company, something like that. Yep. My next prediction is I think Apple Intelligence will finally find its groove. I think we are on the dot two version where Apple Intelligence is on the iPhone 15 Pro line and the iPhone 16 line. I think next year we will see Apple Intelligence in its full glory. Right now it's kind of been it's not piecemeal, it's not the word I'm looking for, but it's been slowly introduced, and I
Mhm.
think people will in 2025 get the full effect of what Apple Intelligence um, means and does, because I really think that there are some hardware features that are already built into the iPhone 16 phones that we have that haven't been activated, for lack of a better word, for for specific reasons of the features for Apple Intelligence haven't become available. And I think once that is unlocked, we'll truly be able to see the true potential and the true functionality of Apple Intelligence. I think 2025 for Apple Intelligence is going to flourish and really show what it can do, because right now, it's more on the image side of things, a little bit of Siri. um
So what sort of metric do you have? Is it like when 88 million people download Apple Intelligence? I'm just arbitrary. Is there like a Apple puts Apple Intelligence in everything, AirPods and Apple
I think
TV? Is it
Yeah, I think once it becomes, I think
ubiquitous?
next year it will become um as integral to the to the Apple ecosystem as, photos, for example. I
Hmm.
think it's going to really cement itself in the Apple ecosystem, in the lexicon of Apple, and it's going to be something that we come to say, okay, at first I wasn't too sure on this, but now I can't do without this thing. I
All
think we're
right.
finally going to get to that point
All right.
for Apple Intelligence, and people are going to be comfortable enough and have used it enough and experienced it enough to say, okay, this, I see why Apple is making this the cornerstone of its products going forward.
All right. All right. So my next one is Apple does not add a iPhone quote Air to the lineup. That's all everybody's been talking about since the iPhone 16s came out. Everybody's
Stupidest
been
thing.
changed their attention to this new phone that's supposed to come out later this year. Everybody's been talking about the iPhone Air that's supposed to be slimmer, even slimmer than the current phone. How do you get slimmer than that? I don't know, but
And
people are
why
saying
would you need to be slimmer?
I don't know, but all that to say, they've been really, they being the tech community, has really been pushing, whether it be through analysts, whether it just be through hope, hope
Wish
that
factor.
the iPhone 17, instead of just iPhone 17, iPhone 17 Pro, they're also going to have an iPhone 17 Air. And I don't think that's going to happen. Again, like I mentioned at the beginning, this is what it is with the iPhone, and they'll get some different colors. They'll maybe add a button or two here, which gets into my next prediction. But
Mhm,
as far as what the phone looks like, this is it. They got rid of the iPhone mini. They
mhm.
got done. They pretty much pared down all the different versions. There's no S's, there's no XS's, there's no XRs. It's just 17, or there's regular, there's plus, and then there's pro, and then that's it.
I 100% agree with this. I remember when this first came to be a thing. I think I was on DTNS, and it makes no sense for them to create an Air version of the iPhone, especially when they're expecting to come out with a new SE. It doesn't fit. It doesn't honestly make any sense. What is the value add for adding an even thinner phone to an already thin phone?
Hmm.
And one of the things around it when it first came out, it was going to lose more than it would gain. The antenna space, it was going to lose some of that because the thinness. The battery was going to be a downgrade in the battery because, of course, if super thin, it's only so much battery you can put in. Camera space, it's only so much camera you can. It was more downgrades than any, and the only upgrade, quote, I'm putting that in quotes, is that it's thin. And at this point, who cares? It's already pretty thin. I think this is complete nonsense. I think this is a false flag, and it's utterly ridiculous
Yeah,
to moi.
it's fodder for people to read on
Yeah,
tech blogs, and that's about it. But
yeah,
that's what they want, so I guess they win. All
yeah,
right, so yeah, no, you're next. You're
yep.
up.
So my final prediction for 2025 is that there are not going to be any new major innovations coming out of Apple. I think what we see is what we get. We may get some incremental changes. We may get a new feature here, a new feature there, but I don't think we can expect to see um, anything that is on the innovation side or anything that we have come to expect from Apple in the form of innovation. We've seen, I think, honestly, NVIDIA, they're doing some really spectacular things, not only on the AI side, not only on the GPU side, but they recently announced they had their major conference, this new device and the models that this thing can run. and it's super small
Is it a
is
computer? What is it?
yes, it's a
It's a computer.
computer.
Got it.
And it's I think I saw someone say um Nvidia saw people daisy chaining these M4 Mac minis. And they were
Mhm.
like, you know what? We can do better. We're going to give you one device. It's going to be
Mhm.
smaller and it's going to be more powerful. And I think Apple really, as much, I mean, this is an Apple centric podcast. Terrace and
Mhm.
I both are Apple snobs. We love Apple products. We have pretty much everything they have to offer. And I just don't, I see from what I've seen in this past year, they've seemed to finally hit that plateau that we never thought that they would hit because they were so far advanced from anybody. And I just think it's one of those things now where they're maintaining and doing incremental changes of the products that they already have. I don't expect to be wowed by anything that Apple produces in 2025.
All right.
And unfortunately, I'm a little sad about that, but it is what it is.
And I guess I'm fine. I'm fine with it as long as they quit trying to sell me, resell me on the same
Stuff I
old
already
stuff.
have.
Don't resell me on the same stuff. Just say, look,
Yeah,
this is our tried and true iPhone. You know it works. You know the price. This is what it does. We'll add a
Imma stick
couple things
beside it.
here and there. And but this is it, right?
Yeah.
So that runs into my last prediction is Apple, while Apple does not redesign the iPhone completely, it does add the horizontal camera bump. For
Hmm,
those who are watching, this is the square camera bump that has the three cameras, it has the LiDAR, and it has the flash, right? It's in a box in the corner. When you lay your phone down flat, for those who don't use a case, most people use a case that kind of levels it out, but I
mhm.
don't. I don't have a case. And when I lay my phone down, the my I don't want to say OCD because that is disrespectful to people who
Who
actually have
actually suffer
OCD.
from it? Yep.
So I'll just say I'm so anal retentive that I
I call
cannot
it OCD tendencies.
I'm OCD adjacent.
Yep.
I don't like the way the phone sits flat
Mhm,
when you put it down. So I think what I want to see is Apple add the vertical or horizontal camera bump that goes across the top, similar to the Google Pixels. The Google
mhm,
Pixels have that bar. It's not a bump because the cameras don't stick out, but on the Google Pixels, towards the top, they have a long bar that within that bar has all the cameras and the sensors. While Apple probably, I don't want Apple to copy that straight, but I do want Apple to come up with their own spin on a horizontal camera bump, not the vertical one that goes down the side like Samsung. Talking
mhm.
about across the top. So I think I when I think I want to believe that Apple does change up their current camera bump because it's not laughable, but it's just like y'all can do better.
And that is when you mentioned about the Pixel, I think that's the end Samsung, so, Pixel is going
Across the
horizontal
top and Samsung's
and
down the
Samsung's
side.
going vertical. I think that's why they won't change it because all of these phones look exactly the same.
Okay.
There's
Okay.
not that
That's
much
fair.
of a differentiator,
That's
and the
fair.
biggest differentiator is the square
On
kind
the
of
back.
on the
Yeah.
back that
Mhm.
says, "Oh, that's an iPhone."
Got
That's
it.
how you can tell instantly whether it's an iPhone or
Mhm.
something else. And that's
Got
the
it.
only reason why I think they're just that petty to
That
say,
they won't do it.
even though this would be better for
Right.
our consumers, it
Mhm.
would make the cameras less susceptible to damage. We're not going
Mhm.
to do it because it will, like, one, we're copying someone else, and two, we wouldn't be as distinctive. That's the only reason why
That
I
makes
think
sense.
that they won't go with it.
All right. All right. So I think that is it for all of our 2025 predictions. We will try to keep up with them as the year
Mhm.
goes on, but We didn't do that last year. So
And we say it every year. We're
every
gonna do it
year,
throughout the year. And
every year
here
we
we are.
say, as soon as the thing happens or doesn't, we'll make sure to update y'all on the scorecard, quote unquote, in that particular podcast, but we didn't. So make sure to listen to, the first episode of 2026 when we kind of go back over these 2025 predictions
Yep.
and see if we were right or wrong. I think if you don't have anything else, Nika, I
Nope.
think that's going to do it for this week's show. So tell the folks where they can find you.
You can find me at Tech Savvy Diva pretty much everywhere.
And you can find me at Brother Tech. That's BROTHATECH. You can find the show if you go to snoboscast.com. That's where you can find out how to listen to the show. That's how you can also find out how to be a Patreon supporter. I didn't mention this at the top of the show, but I want to make sure to let you all know there is a way that you can support the show financially by becoming a Patreon supporter. And if you do, you get exclusive access to content that you will not hear on this show. You'll also get to listen to the show early because we do record the show on Wednesdays and we publish it on Fridays. But if you're a part of our Patreon group, you'll get to listen to the show live because you'll have access to it as we're recording the show. And again, like I mentioned, you get exclusive content that you will not find on this show. Like, for instance, we talked about my new obsession with VR. We talk about Nica and her son. I'm not son, her nephew, and his weird Christmas requests. So all that stuff you'll hear if you become a member of our Snobist community. So please go to Patreon, go to snoboscast.com, find out all those details. So until next week, we are out. Peace.
Bye, everybody.